What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Strange New Show. Keith and Mike watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I'm a little distracted because, and I'm hoping that you are able to hear it, because I think because of the internet weirdness, the theme song was just played wildly out of tempo. So the conductor is drunk this morning.
No, you didn't hear any of that.
Oh, it's such a bummer because it was like, what is happening?
Why is the internet so weird? You know what? It's always weird. Why question it now?
So it's weird. That's who we are. That's where we are. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Keith. I'll save it for Geekly, but I went and saw. I completed one leg of the Barbenheimer challenge. I saw Oppenheimer last night, and it rocked me to my core. And then tonight we're going to see the Barbie with Jens.
Nice.
So that should be a fun little treat. So I'm doing okay. I'm a little. I think I'm fighting something off in the illness department, though I know it pales in comparison to what you've been probably going through. Regardless, we're fighting through this morning for you and for the Star Trek universe, Keith.
Yeah, well, and excited to do it. So, because today we are talking about Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra per Aspera. We're doing Measure of a Man, folks. I'm excited about it. But before we talk about it, we have to talk about last week's viewer ratings for the Season 2 premiere, The Broken Circle. A lot of you leave comments, but you forget to put your ratings. So, just put a number in there and be part of our wonderful family of numbers here. JD gives it an 80. Jason Moe gives it an 80 as well. Warps Bushifs comes in with a 90. That gives you an average of 83.3. And if you're counting at home, like we all are, that means I win because I gave it an 82. You came in low with a 68, man. Rough.
I did? Yeah, well,
you were rough on that episode.
I'm calibrating, Keith. I'm calibrating.
I see.
Keith, for all our people out there, I just wanted to point out, I believe Comic-Con is going on currently. And so I've been seeing some posts. I want to shout out, I think, My Figure Universe, who's sometimes posts some of our stuff, posted some shots today from Comic-Con of the Strange New Worlds uniforms. They have them all kind of encased and up close.
Oh, cool.
So if you've got any if you're out there in San Diego and you've got some pictures, shoot them our way. I'd love to see. That's all I have to say.
For sure. Although I think there's been a ton of cancellations from the actors supporting the strike.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the costumes will show up. The actors probably not, and shouldn't. All right. So let us hop right into Ad Astra per Aspera, which aired on June 22nd, 2023. The top song was, once again, Morgan Wallen's Last Night.
Last night we let the liquor talk. Can't remember everything we said.
Yeah. I was about to make a joke about what maybe he shouldn't have done and got videoed and posted on the internet last night. But I need to double check it and make sure I do not make an unfounded accusation. But I do believe he's very problematic. You want to know what wasn't problematic, Mike? The top movie this week, if you'd believe it, after taking 2 weeks off of number 1, coming back around, back to the top spot in its 4th week, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I know you enjoyed that movie greatly.
I did. Tell him that he doesn't belong there. I was playing the trailer, but it's going through the wrong channel, so whatever. It's beautiful.
Great.
Check it out.
Great. Wow, God, we're so good. What we're doing? What do you call it? A dip and drop today?
Yep, that's exactly what you call it, Keith. Ice cream of the future.
This will be in your feeds mere hours after we record this.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop a 1080 so that it goes faster, so we won't even. So if we don't look as beautiful as we usually do, then you know
or why. With less resolution, we look more beautiful than usual.
That's fair. Yeah. It's true.
I mean, like I have a face built for 320 by 240. It really.
I'm a 4x3 kind of guy.
I'm a 4x3.
4 if I'm really excited, but usually 3.
Wow. Okay. So maybe this will help. The weekly world news headline from 20 years previous: Saddam and Osama are in love. Their shocking secret life. It's
beautiful. actually.
It's very nice. Yeah, maybe they're not great people, but we love. So there it is.
You need someone to hit the button on your what's the thing you hit when you got the kidney problems? Dialysis. Somebody needs to hit your dialysis button.
That's true. Okay, I'm so glad that went there, not other places. Also, angels have been declared an endangered species. It's very sad.
We as a species don't care.
Well, the feds arrest a duck hunter who shot down a cherub from the sky.
Church group begs Vatican make Three Stooges saints. Hold on, that one's good.
I mean, it is very interesting.
I'm sure there's a church group that maybe feels that way.
The Weekly World News, now that we've seen a lot of headlines, like, they're really obsessed with like three different things. Biblical things, right? They're super obsessed with gay things, because we were living in a very homophobic time in 2005 or whatever this was, and aliens.
Oh, Keith, this might be the first time I've ever seen an actual photo credit. Keith, who took that picture?
Oh, it's the Iraqi TV news.
I mean, that's like as good as Reuters. Reuters.
Routers. We need a new one of those today.
Apparently.
Well, you know who did a good job routing all of the different things to make this episode happen? The director of it. Valerie Weiss. This is her first episode of Trek. And this was written by another first Trek writer, Dan Horgan, who also wrote a lot of the show Once Upon a Time. Did you ever watch that show?
You know, it was like a CW. Yes, it was the CW sort of fairy tale drama.
Yeah.
I pipped and popped here and there.
All right. Well, you know, he's been known to pip and pop.
I would have ventured a guess that the writer was maybe a woman, because they wrote two pretty powerful women in this episode. But I'm glad to hear that at least the director was, so that it had a feminine touch. Indeed.
Shall we talk about some people who touch us with their money and their support? That is, of course, our patrons, who you can join at patreon.com/KNM. Mike, who are they and what are they getting?
Touching us weekly: Bryant, Kimball Beersock, Casey Clark, Jason Moe, Andrew Hayes, Jorge Navoa, and the Mysterious and the Mysterious Household, Worf's Boot Shivs, Charles Babbage, Richard Coleman, CRM Productions, Nikolay Ivanovich Lobachevsky, Delusions at Noon, Steve Brown, YouTube Viewer, JD Makes, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell at CRM, Pat, and our dear friend Joshua Cronin. You can have your name pronounced specifically and correctly at patreon.com/K&M.
Wow. Mike, did you AI the patrons?
Actually, oh my God, what a great idea. I do have a AI Mike voice these days.
You sure do, yeah. So you can get, folks, I'm just saying, we don't have a patron tier for this, but...
we've spent all of our resources on sex bots for Hey, what?
I'm just saying, if we don't have that available, you could probably get the AI Mike voice. You can probably download that and make it give you directions, and, you know, in any way that you want him to make you directions.
What? This Keith? See, I wasn't getting horny, but... Wait, what? That's not what I meant to say.
You know, in Dungeons and Dragons, folks, you'll get this if you get this or whatever. They have a skill called like passive intelligence, passive perception, meaning you're just like base level awareness of the world around you. So like, which is like set at a number. I think Mike has a passive horniness that he's just always a certain amount of.
So
horny.
do you ever have to skill check horny, or like if you did, what would you skill check for like a?
I mean, would it be a charisma save? No, the charisma save would be whether or not you could
use
pass it on to someone else. Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
let's go. I'm getting my producers are telling us we should move forward.
Oh, you think? That's amazing. Well, let's go on to everybody's favorite segment. Is it going to work? Oh my God.
Now, Keith, waste your time with trivial trivia.
Keith, would you believe that I did it your way?
Oh, thank God.
And not only that,
amazing.
you can set specific delays, so I was able to cut off the big end by just setting a delay for the 11 seconds, and then it fades over for us.
Amazing.
So what I'm basically saying is, you were right all along.
Yeah, I love
You've been
hearing
waiting for that, yeah.
Should we talk more about Dropbox?
We could. But keep hearing, because being right all along doesn't mean you're always right. In fact, someone knows.
I am Dude. I mean, that doesn't make me wrong.
No.
That makes me
one of
Dude.
my favorites. It does make you Dude. Okay. It tickles.
All right.
It still tickles me. Everyone, shall we?
I am Dude.
Get used to it.
One of the things that tickles me is how much Mike is tickled by random things. Like, he just becomes wildly tickled. I find that delightful. All right. So in our trivial trivia, we should explain the episode title. Ad Astra per Aspera is a popular Latin phrase that means to the stars through hardship, which interestingly, Ad Astra per Aspera is the state motto for Kansas.
Is that true?
That is the most random state motto. It is.
Yeah, okay.
Like, why that, and why Kansas? What does Kansas have to do with the stars? I don't know. I guess you can see them in the cornfields.
I think when you and your property and all your loved ones are picked up into a tornado and spun into the sky, you have a better view of the stars.
Of the stars. Yeah. Well, you're closer to the stars.
If you don't have a roof.
Hardships. Yeah. Through the hardship of being sucked up by a tornado. Yeah. All right, we fixed it. Also, we see sort of a bas-relief in the courtroom in the back, and it depicts members of various 23rd century Federation members, including the founding members. Mike, do you know who the founding members of the Federation are?
I'm guessing they're different than the founders.
I mean, the founders are they're pretty much on it. Maybe they did go back in time and found the Federation. It's totally possible. But actually, it's an Andorian, a human, a Tellarite, and a Vulcan. As well as other species, we see the Tiberanian from the original series, Way to Eden, a Betelgeuse, a Ronderite, a Saurian, a Zaranite from the motion picture, a Cation, and an Endosian, and an Unslulus. Oh my God!
An Unslulus. Well, you had me at Unslulus.
You know, they had a rule on Trek that when you had all these weird alien names or whatever, whether it's character name or species name, the first scene, the first actor to pronounce it, that becomes the pronunciation moving forward. Oh. So, yeah. So
well, I was this days old when I realized it was called a bas-relief and not a bas-relief. I didn't know the S was silent.
I believe it is.
You said it first, folks? Today, so.
I mean, I feel like it's bas-relief, but I could be wrong. But
one of us is clearly wrong. I don't have any sort of knowledge of it. Yeah, I could. You keep talking.
Look it up. Yeah, I will introduce our guest stars, including Yetidi Badaki as Nira, Adrian Holmes as Robert April, Melanie Scrofano as Battelle, with some co-starrings including Jim Anon as Una's father, and Claire Beitel as the young girl, young Una, Catherine Black as Una's mother, Eugene Clark as the Vulcan judge, and some other folks. Mike, do we got that S?
We do have. Let's see. I'm gonna pause here. Our Deep Space Nine background music. Excuse me breaking the immersion, everyone. I have. It's very important that we do this. I know not everyone loves when we go on a tangent, but this is how we do. So here we go.
Yeah, we're gonna tangent.
Yeah. Let me get this up here. How do you pronounce it?
Bas-relief.
There's an S there.
There is an. Okay. Well, you know what? It's okay. I'm sorry to have called you out. I just was really actually curious.
No, I mean because I was somebody whose parents listened to NPR like 18 hours a day at home, I usually was able to pronounce the weird words and phrases correctly because I heard them. But this one, it might have been an art teacher who pronounced it wrong.
She might have been trying to be fancy.
Yes. The S is silent.
There's also a UK pronunciation. Maybe they don't use the S, but I've already closed the tab.
All right. Well, let's pretend that I'm the UK, the fancier,
I have
royal,
it up. Hold on.
The royal production.
Bas relief.
Bas relief.
Bas relief.
They
just say it's stupid.
Mike, should we go into the screening room and talk about this episode?
Let's do it. Here we go. I won't give it away, but I am. All right, let's just roll.
Okay, Mike. We begin in a big modern city. Beautiful shot there.
For no reason other than its beauty, I've made that my wallpaper on my computer now.
Have you now?
Yeah.
Have you really?
It's beautiful.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we're in a big modern city, and parents are whispering about their daughter who has a brutally broken leg. Ugh. But her father doesn't want to take her to the hospital because they'll figure out who she is. Of course, it's little number one, and her genetic enhancements are glowing. Yikes. We arrive in the present where Starfleet is offering her a plea deal. Of course, everybody listening to this knows that she was arrested for being an Ilyrian in Starfleet. So they make her a pretty decent offer, plead guilty, and we'll just give you a dishonorable discharge and no prison sentence. But part of the deal is we're going to watch this under the surface and keep it all a secret so we don't get embarrassed. The Federation is being repped by Pike's girlfriend. Awkward. But also, why is a Starfleet captain doing this and not a lawyer or a judge? Was my first thought. But then I had another thought: to keep it secret. So I think this was about keeping the loop small.
So much like a starship captain can perform a wedding. When
yes,
they can also preside over a court proceeding.
I mean, sure.
Okay.
Why not? I mean, Federation captains can do everything. They can cook.
There is a lot of surrogates.
They can climb El Capitan free solo.
I do like that. There is a lot of surrogates. My question was, if the Vulcan guy has such strong opinions and feelings, why isn't he just lawyering?
I think because he's so high up, he's delegating to the little people.
Yeah, but he's doing more than delegating. He's leaning over and whispering. At that point, just the microphone's right there. I mean,
wait, go back. Show it's not the Vulcan guy from later.
No,
is it?
No, I'm talking about the Vulcan guy from later. I was just like, I was tying your points together. I was like, if we just had, the actual lawyers lawyering this, we could save a step here. But I understand your point. We're keeping it hush hush. I get it.
Yeah,
sort of.
I'm assuming like it's a little bit of a wormhole for me. But
there's a point in this where I do have a specific wormhole, but I'm trying to do my best to save it for the actual segment so that we don't get there like every week and we're like, I mean, we already talked about it, so.
I mean, if people cared about our competence, they would have quit the show a long time ago. But I have some wormholes too. All right, so Una's public defender says, take the deal. But she points out that he works for Starfleet too. And is like, I can't really trust you, which makes sense. I bet this happens a lot with like JAG officers because you're being prosecuted by the military. Your own lawyer works for the military and like is supposed to be independent. But I could understand being a little bit nervous about that.
Well, I mean, these are not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but these are typical tactics used by in kangaroo court situations, right? You have
sure.
Well, we're impartial, but we're going to appoint a special prosecutor who is not impartial, but will be operating on our impartial behalf. Well, what? It feels like you have a pretty strong editorial opinion.
I'm sorry, what, Bill Barr? All right, so anyway, meanwhile, Bane, I mean Captain Pike.
I can breathe just fine. I'm here to see the lawyer.
Captain Pike back from Anson Mount's paternity leave, which is why he was busy in season. Thanks, Jason Moe.
Yeah, for that better podcast, or people tell
Jason
us what
Moe
to say.
is our better podcast. He's in search of a lawyer for number 1 on a planet that obviously has air like ours this summer of wildfire smoke.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Tangent. I give myself 2 days a week that I pop onto the social medias and kind of check what's going on, just this sort of general thing. And I found on one of the social medias, probably most of them, but this one specifically, their algorithm pushes to the top just the people who talk the most. It's not even, they don't try to...
Right, always.
And I read this comment, which is so indicative of what I think is wrong with just about everybody, but...
wow, okay.
Just like our society, right? Our just like me
you need
culture.
to go to like a one shot so you can...
No, let me just like give you here's the this was the person's Facebook post. Okay, this was what they posted on, they said this to the public. Okay,
I'm warning you, if you don't want to have to make a cut, be careful.
No, I'm saying it, man.
Okay, all right.
They were just like tangentially even connected to me. But so remember, Facebook generally, you think, I have to carefully craft a post that like lets people think I'm caring or that I have a great life or some whatever. It's a very like curated scenario. Okay, it says this. I really hope the Canadians get their ish together. These wildfires are ruining our pool days this summer. And I was like,
yeah,
jaw agape. Wait, the problem with the wildfires and the death of our air is that you can't go to the pool?
And the Canadians who are having their houses and themselves burned down, like half of the...
man.
America!
Even I know that's a terrible thing to say.
America! God, we're such terrible people.
Fly like the eagle, John Ashcroft.
That's right.
That wasn't the song at all, but... Okay.
Like an eagle, I will soar. Okay.
I love the apparatus, though. I think it's just a sleep apnea mask, but...
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, no, I mean, maybe that's Pike's one vulnerability. He looks like he does. He can do everything. He can cook like that. He's like slaying ladies across the universe.
He sounds like a boar when he's sleeping.
But he's got terrible sleep apnea. If he doesn't have a mask, he will literally die.
His girlfriend, it's so bad his girlfriend sleeps on a different ship. Not bad. I got Keith. I don't generally knock him down like that. Okay.
No, that's good. I mean, like, I say this knowing that that's in my future, if not, probably should already have.
Well, I'm a sleep nomad, so I often have to sleep in a different room just because I can't stay in the same spot.
You're going to need, like, the portable app.
There's a statistic out that, like, couples that sleep in different rooms actually have wildly more successful marriages.
Well, I tried that and got a divorce, so...
How many cuts do I have to make this episode? Cut to that everything's left in.
Of course. No, we're leaving it all. All right. What's happening? All right. So he waits in the office of a fancy lawyer who refuses to meet with him.
Baller move here. Baller move.
Oh, yeah. He's got to sit there all day, but he runs out of oxygen, which... Okay, so here we're going to play another game of wormhole or strategy.
Oh, the latter. I didn't read this as wormhole at all.
Okay, so like he 100% did this on purpose because like
he knew that they weren't going to see her because I think he knew the history of the two people, and so he's like, well, they have to pick between this and me pretending to die. Like
in a world where we have warp drive, I'm sure we could find a way not to run out of oxygen in an afternoon.
Keith, no wonder your negotiating skills are not very good. You're not willing to die.
I mean, I'm willing to die if it's just like a stupid argument that I feel like I should win. That's 100%.
But if it's a hill worth dying on, lay down on the ground? No.
Ew, there's bugs. All right, so this causes the lawyer to finally meet with him, and she puts oxygen in her office, and he gasps awake. What a cool concept to have like a little button on your desk to like make there be oxygen in your office.
And we see a quick trailer of the Wicked movie right here.
Oh, right. They're 10 days from finishing filming before the strike happened. I think it's going to be good. Cynthia Erivo is a national treasure. Yeah. And she's going to destroy that part. Anyway.
And then we'll wait 6 years for the second half of the movie.
That's right. It's like intermission is 2 years.
Man, these drinks are expensive. Inflation.
That's right. He spent 2 years spending $30 on like a thimble of wine. Great. So these are the Ilyrians on this planet, and they're strong enough to survive in this atmosphere. Cool. I mean, it's interesting they obviously settled here as opposed to were from here originally. So it's such a dick move to a universe that's been so mean, so shitty to you, to live on a planet where nobody can breathe except for you. So he explains what's happening to the lawyer. Her name is Nira, who apparently is old friends with Una, but she's no friend to the Federation.
But she's fabulous as hell.
You're damn right. He says, I was wrong, and the Federation was too. She says, let me know when the Federation knows that they're wrong. She apparently knows all about the case, even though the case is sealed. Those Ilyrians, they're smart. But he convinces her using a bit of ego and a bit of nostalgia. Although, looking back at the end, was she planning to do this all along and just making him jump through hoops?
I don't know. It was hard to hear anything over the chip on her shoulder. Jesus.
I mean, speaking of chip on shoulders, look at Pike.
Yeah. He looks like he's wearing Klingon shoulder pads.
He sure does. Well, and the spikes.
I love what you've done with the violent vagina sculptures everywhere.
So, okay, somebody, next Halloween, you've got to be goth Pike with violent vaginas on your shoulder.
Some may say violent, some say protective. It depends how you look at it.
Well, it should be Bane Pike. You got to wear your sleep apnea mask with your violent vagina.
Yo, now that is the custom I want to see. Bane Pike with vagina shoulder pads. Folks.
Somebody manifest it into the world.
Oh, man.
What's happening?
Have you gotten any emails with Strange New Worlds customs yet?
No, not yet.
I gotta imagine somebody's making them.
Oh, definitely. It's gotta happen. So it works, and she arrives on Earth to help Una. So, Nira and Una are salty. She says, I'm not here as your friend. Just tell me what happened. Ooh, that's never good. Nira points out that, and this is an interesting conversation, that Nira points out that Una has chosen to pass as a non-Ilyrian, but not all of us can, or would choose to allow that to happen. Obviously, there are tons of like undertones there, whether it's race or gender or whatever. It's a complex thing, and especially a person of color saying that to someone else, like it's interesting, and I thought it was a cool thing to have there.
It is. I will say here, I felt, and I don't want to put it on the actress at all. It is not on the actress at all. She was a little scenery chewy, but not in a distracting way. It's almost like a Johnny Cochran style that they needed from her. So I totally understand that, and I think it tracks with the character. She had to be
flamboyant in some fashion. Yeah.
But I do feel like the personal vice between them, though, when we get to the explanation of it and the courtroom scene of it, it actually almost completely fixed it for me. But I will say that early on, it feels very beating a dead horse with it. Like, we get it. And two friends who, or ex-friends, people with frenemies with a grudge, right? And let me tell you, the stakes are different, but I have some deep-seated issues with some of my old pals.
Dude, do we need to talk?
No, not you.
Okay.
But it's not the bulk of our conversation constantly, and it's not so overt. It just felt a little ham-fisted.
But if you hadn't seen I don't think they've talked.
Yeah, we get it, but she makes a couple of snide comments here, and that totally tracks. But then it continues every scene we see them together. She's throwing it out. I just felt a little much.
They hit it pretty hard. Yeah. No, they hit it pretty hard.
It would be a huge complaint if they didn't, I think, very masterfully stick the landing. But we'll get there. Yeah,
because you knew they had to explain it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so in the conversation, I'm definitely getting a gays in the military analogy here. And having to serve in the Federation, hiding who you are, hiding your identity, because the institution itself does not accept you, or didn't. I mean, obviously it does now, but
I was getting much more, more broad strokes, just racial overtones, like having, even people fighting in the Revolutionary War and the First World War who weren't accepted, and Tuskegee, and just so much. It was, but I mean, all of the above, right? Basically, any institution who will gladly accept your service, but as long as you keep your mouth shut and don't really talk about your problems with the hypocrisy of it.
Right, and I think if we go with the gays in the military thing, right? You want to serve, the institution has outlawed you, so you have that relationship, but also your friends, your partners, your family who are like, why are you being a part of this thing that excludes you? It's it's very complex.
I have a very, and this is, I would really love the episode for it, because her point is the easiest point to take, right? It's like, why are you holding this thing up, right, as an ideal when it doesn't want you? I often, I have, and I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but I often think about friends who engage me in religious discussions, and I'll keep all religions I'll keep it broad. And I'll say, well, you are supporting this religion who doesn't accept XYZ, who are our friends. And they say, well, I don't subscribe to that part of it. And I was like, but you give them money, which then they can use with what they, so there are, I get that it's a lot of needles to thread, man.
No, I think about my friends who are actors who will work for like Sight and Sound, right? Who are like, specifically and intentionally like homophobic, right? But I know those friends are gay, but they're still working there, and it's a very strange situation.
But it's not unfair to say, especially people who end up in leadership positions. Generally, you don't get to a leadership position if you don't have a little bit of an ego, right?
Right.
To say, I can make this better. I can change this.
Well, and that's the thing. Do you change from within, or you change from outside? And I think there is a great deal to be said for both.
And which is why I think this ultimate plot line is very brave, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Starfleet in general is often seen, and the way we handle things in Trek is also often very idealistic and based in these lofty sci-fi ideals. And here it's like starting from a place of, there's a grand hypocrisy taking place, and we're going to face a head on here.
Well, and
that change is slow, and that change don't always.
No, for sure. But I understand the faith in the institution that, the Federation specifically, because it is sort of this idealized institution, is that it is willing and able to change and grow. And so, it's the bet that Una is making, that when faced with the truth of the situation, when truly challenged, the Federation will choose to change because they know that they're wrong. Whereas, there's some institutions that, like the military, in the analogy we're using. Hey, guess what? They changed it.
Oh, why did our thing died? Hold on.
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, we're still in the freaking teaser. We gotta move.
We're enjoying ourselves, man.
All right. Anyway, Captain Patel is not happy with her boyfriend. She comes into his quarters and says, I didn't ask to be on this case, which is a fair point, but I'm doing the best I can to help Una. The deal that I offered was a pretty good one. And now, because she turned it down, the feds are getting involved, and that's not good. Uh-oh. So, heroic music plays, and we get a shot of San Francisco before the meeting with the judge. You remember why we're in San Francisco?
No.
Because that is where Starfleet's home base is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see San Francisco tons all over Star Trek because that's where they live.
What a treat!
So, and there it is. Does that still exist?
San Francisco
treat. Yeah.
Just in tune like that.
Professional musicians. Boom, right here.
I heard a great quote last night, Keith, in the movie. I'm going to share it with you here. Spoiler for K&M Geekly. I won't tell you my opinion on the movie, but I'll say that they're trying to explain abstract thinking, creative thinking, when it comes to the maths, the arts,
blowing up the world,
the things, yeah. And it was such a cool analogy, I thought. It's this character says to another character, says, okay, it's very easy. When you look at sheet music, the question is not, can you read it? The question is, can you hear it? That's two different types of thinkers. And I was like, that is so brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. No, well, but if you, God, we're never going to finish this episode. When you need to be able to hear it to sing it, which is the practical thing. I can read it like, oh, that's an A, that's an E, that's a D. But if you're in a rehearsal, you need to be able to hear it to be able to sing it, which is a different part of your brain. Mm-hmm. All right. Anyway, so a Vulcan admiral has now shown up to take over the prosecution. They're going to trump up the charges by adding sedition. And now they want a dishonorable dismissal and 20 years in prison. Uh-oh. So in Act 1, naturally, we're going to have to fight back. Nira says the first witness is Robert April, who sponsored Una's application to Starfleet and promoted her. And Nira says this is not good news because they're not going to put him up there for no reason. Una wants to testify, but Nira naturally says no. The facts of the case, i.e., is she an Ilyrian, did she hide it, are not really in dispute. So this whole thing has to be about the justness of the law, not whether or not she broke the law. The affirmative defense, what defense was that? Remember from the practice? Jury nullification?
Jury nullification, yeah.
Yeah, there it is. So La'an helps Nira set up in Una's quarters. Interesting pairing here with La'an being related to Khan. And also the fact that they've built this amazing quarters set that they clearly just redress for every character, which means that all of them get this amazing quarters on the ship. Mm-hmm. They're living a lot nicer than they do even on the Enterprise D.
Another incredible performance by her here. Like, so much she has to play about her own strife and her struggle with this thing, and she's just so good.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I look at her performance now through the lens of having seen her play Goofy,
do comedy, yeah,
and realize how funny she is, and playing this other character. It's fascinating.
Well, good is good.
Good is good. So La'an offers to help, and she asks about a prior case. And says that possibly this might all be from the fruit of a poisonous tree, and that perhaps some of the evidence against Una was illegally obtained and thus could get the case thrown out.
So is she working under the assumption here that what they got was her personal log and someone must have stolen her personal log?
Yes, I think that's the idea. And so therefore, if it was stolen, then it wouldn't be admissible. So later, Pike is in 10 forward and his girlfriend sits down. We learn that Pike will be a character witness for Una. So she asks, how'd you meet? And he gives... You're welcome, wonderfully attractive actress who now has that on the internet.
That's her opinion of my screenshot.
Yeah, she's looking at you specifically saying,
she is.
What have you done to me? Do you want me to go and start screenshotting from K&M Empire?
I had a guy make me a script. It didn't work out.
It's amazing. Hey, no. Stop scratching the couch.
Oh, my God.
Hold on. This is Charlie. Charlie wants to be on the show today, so we're going to...
He's like, would you get on with it, guys? Jesus.
I know, like, quite literally. So, he gives a speech. Oh, so he met Una giving a speech at her graduation ceremony. And she tries to warn Pike about testifying because it will leave him open to exposure himself for hiding her secret, and possibly the rest of the crew as well. I bet they're going to follow that up. Also in 10 forward are Ortegas and Mbenga, who are watching Spock and the Vulcan ambassador talking from a distance. Mbenga is able to spot that they hate each other. And it's true. Spock gets up and apologizes for his non-existent outburst and explains that this guy worked with his father and brings out the worst in him.
This is the lone comedic beat of the episode, and it is a gem, in my opinion. I had a hearty LOL when Spock is like, excuse my outburst.
I mean, it's just classic Vulcan humor.
It was very good.
Which is weird because Spock in this timeline has real outbursts all the time. But anyway, still funny.
I think I got a screenshot of it. I'll bring it up later. There's an interesting makeup decision or conundrum they have in HD. We'll talk about it when I see the screenshot.
Okay. So later, La'an goes up to Uhura and asks her to collect all communications mentioning Una in the last 6 months, including personal logs. La'an is looking for who turned Una in. Uhura says, it's against the law. We need to find it another way. So in Act 2,
but couldn't she have here come clean and been like, I want to know who accessed my logs?
I think what she's trying to do is confirm that it was her logs. And there weren't like 3 other people having that conversation.
Okay.
So it just like needed to narrow that down. So in Act 2, the trial begins, and our heroes watch on the conference room TV. Behind them is that's a great shot. I don't think I even clocked that one the first time.
It was cool.
What's that? That's if you want to have your courtroom like clinging to a cliffside.
I mean, I guess if you're the one on trial, you're like, well, at least the last sight I see of the world before I go to prison is a beauteous one.
Well, or also like your trial's not going well when the trial takes place already on Alcatraz.
Yeah. Can you swim?
Can you swim? Not that well. So anyway, behind them on the Enterprise, hopefully we'll get a shot of it, is a cool poster of Zephram Cochrane's ship from First Contact. And we're going to see another one later in the background. Una wears a great take on the original series dress uniforms, while the judges have an interesting take on sort of the disco uniforms a little bit, or at least the color scheme of the disco uniforms. Great production design. Like, gosh, what an expensive looking room. I mean, it's all, plywood and stuff, but like it looks great on camera. They put in a chip that reads the charges. The yellow info chip is also a nod to the original series. That's how they put their computer. It was before floppy disks existed, but they sort of thought of that idea, and that's what they were thinking. The computer voice we hear is vaguely reminiscent of Majel Barrett's voice, but I feel this would have been a great opportunity to actually use Majel Barrett's voice. Because I believe that, because we hear that computer voice from the original series, which was Majel Barrett then, and I believe she recorded herself saying everything phonetic, saying all the phonetic sounds so that they could use her voice later. It's odd, before she died, that is. It's odd they didn't use it. Anyway, she pleads not guilty. So Captain Patel gives her opening statement, explaining why they are against genetic engineering. She talks about the eugenic wars that killed tens of millions of people, plus it interferes with natural evolution. Now it's Neera's turn. She says that yes, Una broke the law, but points out a multitude of unjust laws in human history, from our own history, and that the Federation has unwittingly become persecutors in this situation, i.e. forcing people into hiding just like we have done all throughout our history with religion, sexuality, nationality, etc. Very good point. I mean, it's a great, again, good sci-fi is pointing a finger back at us through a sci-fi lens. Next up is April. He used to be Una's mentor. He really likes her, but is forced to admit that had he known, he would not have sponsored her for Starfleet. And, Mike knows now how important it is to sponsor someone for Starfleet, as we saw Cisco do that for Nog. I don't know if she did she make Una inventory a cargo bay to make sure she didn't steal stuff?
I don't know. She probably didn't get bribed either.
Probably not. But before April leaves, Neera confirms that him not sponsoring her would be because of the law, not personal. Then she brings up the Prime Directive, non-interference, and she points out times in which April broke the Prime Directive, breaking the law for what's right, very clearly demonstrating his hypocrisy.
Yeah, let's not forget, last week we stole the Enterprise.
Right. Yes, we generally frown on stealing starships.
Mm-hmm.
It
was all recommend. We explained a lot of that away, and they do it here, where a starship captain can make unilateral decisions. Yeah,
part of the job. She also makes a really interesting, really important point, and points out that Una was genetically modified before her birth, and did not choose to be modified herself, which I think should be a distinction. I don't think it should matter either way, but certainly in the legal case, it is it's like the Dreamer sort of a situation. Mm-hmm. April loses it a bit and says he believes in the law to protect the Federation from genocide. He's like, I believe in this law, and Neera calls him a racist, with a fair amount of cause.
Can we do a little lore here? Because
yes,
can you explain to me a little better the eugenics wars? Like, what was the sort of what's the headline here?
Well, the headline is people started genetically modifying themselves, and some of them, i.e. Khan, went sort of megalomaniacal and crazy and started to try to take over the world because they were like superior beings. Okay. And they were really smart and really strong and really powerful and thus very successful at it. And people took from that genetic modification makes you a supervillain.
Mm. That really influences what she says later to Una.
It's a sort of like steroids and aggression, right? If you take steroids, then you're going to go around killing people. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of the idea. It's the
because there was a Benoit.
Nope, I'm not going to go down that road. I was literally about to jump to Benoit, but let's not.
It's
roid rage, not the crippling, unbelievable CTE.
But it's the point that that's anyway. Because there's a pattern, it doesn't make it causation, right?
That's right. That's right. And it was sort of like, because of Khan, all genetic modification was put in the same box.
So that's the weight that La'an is wearing.
Like yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, basically, like, you're bad and scary and evil, and you're probably going to try to take over the universe with any level of genetic engineering. And the Ilyrians are like, we got nothing to do with Khan.
Right.
And that's where Neera calls him a racist, because it's like you're assuming that because this guy, all people are like that. So the judge shuts it all down and strikes it from the record. Later, April goes to Pike, and he knows that Pike brought in this lawyer. He's pissed and refuses a drink and leaves. In the holding cell, Una is also pissed, but Neera says, keep your eye on the big picture. I'm trying to overturn a law, not just get you off. Una doesn't get it, which is weird. Bit of a wormhole here when retroactively we see what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Shared.
And she thinks that Neera just hates the Federation. They bring up their mysterious past again, but we don't know what it is. Yes, big wormhole at the end, I'll save.
Yes.
I think we both have the same one. So, in Act 3, Neera calls in the character witnesses, La'an, Spock, and Mbenga. They give us some backstory. We see the witness stand hand lights for Measure of a Man. Nice little touch. I should explain to Mike, who probably doesn't know it, one of the best episodes of The Next Generation, especially in the early seasons, was an episode called Measure of a Man, where we had a sort of a similar courtroom drama about whether or not Data was a person and had sentience and was able to like make his own decisions, or was he property of the Federation? And it was a fantastic episode. sort of a very similar tone. This is obviously sort of a twist on that. La'an says, I never thought she was hiding anything. Then Spock says, I sure did. An affinity for Gilbert and Sullivan. I get the attempt at the joke. I get where you're going there, but you forgot to make it funny. That was your mistake. Yeah, just swing and a miss. Anyway, La'an says that Una sponsored her application for Starfleet and that she saved her life multiple times. Spock makes the point that Starfleet punishing Una is really punishing itself with the loss of her work. Another great point. Then La'an comes into Nira's room with some info. She asks if La'an has figured out who ratted Una out, and she realizes that La'an thinks it was her. She recorded a personal log the night she found out that she thinks somebody stole. Nira wants to know why La'an was angry about it when she found out, and she asks if La'an carries her father's augmentations, which La'an says yes. So, am I right in thinking that we just confirmed that La'an also has genetic adaptation?
Which doesn't that sort of like neuter her anger from the? I mean, like you can't just
She's
be
the
like
same.
You're the same. It's not like my friend lied to me. Like that's can't be part of the anger. It's I'm sure it's complicated.
But I think it is. I think it is. Like you lied.
We
to
could have
me,
been
you didn't tell me.
commiserating this whole time. But then isn't she also lying to her then if she's hiding her modifications?
Yeah, and like
what are those
La'an,
modifications?
I have so many thoughts, but La'an is afraid of herself turning into a megalomaniacal supervillain.
So
and
this
Nira
scene,
says,
by the way, harken back to me. I couldn't believe I'm about to reference Star Trek V, but where Spock's brother, like, remember they're like, oh, he's doing the brainwash, but we turned out it's actually just pretty good psychotherapy. We get a little nod to that here because this is some great psychotherapy. Like, so much empathy comes from this woman in this scene. I was like, oh, I was moved.
Yeah, well, and like this is like such an important life thing.
I actually think it's great pacing wise too, because you're still on the fence in this episode at this point as whether she's just doing this to get the national attention on what's important to her. Not that it's not important,
like,
but
is she Johnny Cochran?
Yeah,
or not? Yeah.
But here you learn, oh, her convictions are strong in this department, and it's not self-centered. It's not to promote her practice or her her personality,
has a true mission here,
her brand, if you will. Yeah.
And she says the important thing: your genetics are not destiny, which is exactly what the Federation is treating it as. Mm-hmm. She says you have the same capacity for good and evil as the rest of us. It's a great thought and a great scene, although I did think that the music was a little much.
Interesting,
and undercut the importance of that scene a little bit.
Okay, but I will say that Keith and I talked a lot about this in our Out of Practice podcast.
It's the right shirt for today.
You can tell a lot about the skill, not ubiquitously, but you can tell a lot about the skill of an actress when there is a scene where you can tell they want to bawl their eyes out, but it's just boop, boop, it just comes right to here. And in this scene, they both are on the precipice because they're so moved and so filled with emotion, but they do not. It does not even break the surface, which is really skilled.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think you just take the music out, and that scene is great. The music just made it a little bit cheesy, and it didn't need to be. Wormhole thought. Now that we found out that La'an is genetically modified, considering La'an's last name is Noonien Soong, and she's literally related to freaking Khan, would the Federation not have checked out her DNA just a touch?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there. I just thought it was assumed she had like some residual stuff, but
I assumed so in the pilot. But now, as we're, clearly the Federation would not stand for that. So the way I fixed that wormhole is that Federation believing in its own laws, without probable cause to check out her DNA, they couldn't.
Okay.
But I feel like they might have done it on the DL or something. I don't know. It is interesting that she's able to keep that secret. Her name is freaking Khan. Anyway, or she's not. Her name isn't Khan. Anyway.
But for all we know, Keith, she's making a lot of assumptions about herself based on her history.
Well, don't we all?
Yeah. So perhaps she doesn't know. Maybe she's assuming she has these augments that she doesn't. She doesn't.
Or she thinks she does, clearly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. So she reassures La'an there's no way that she accidentally ratted out Una. And they set back to the task of finding out who really did. I forget exactly why she knows that, but it didn't bump me at the time, so there was obviously she explained it. Back in the court, Nira calls Una to the stand after saying, "You're not testifying." Nope, take it back, you are testifying. We find out that Una's been in Starfleet for 25 years, and she explains why she joined Starfleet. The title of the episode, "We Must Endure Hardship to Get to the Stars," but thought the stars for her may provide salvation. She then asks about her childhood. She grew up in a Federation colony that agreed, Ilyrian colony, that agreed to turn off all genetic manipulation in exchange for membership in the Federation. And her family was forced to go underground to continue their tradition of augmentation. And if they'd been caught, they'd be arrested. We also see, as they're watching TV, the Enterprise NX-01 on the wall. Very cool. That might have been there that whole time. I just never noticed it until this episode, but who knows? Anyway, Una faced a lot of prejudice as a child for being an augment, or people thinking she might be an augment. And one of her childhood friends was arrested, and all of their family were persecuted. Clearly, I'm now getting a trans allegory, because what she's describing is pretty much what trans people and their families are increasingly dealing with.
But the friend was clearly this lady's brother or cousin or something? The lawyer?
Oh, I did not get that.
Oh, I sure did. They kept sharing eyes, and she was starting to get weepy every time she mentioned the friend. I think this is the explanation of what happened in their friendship.
Is this her?
It's totally her, 100%, in my opinion.
Oh,
that's why this scene worked so well for me, because we see the lawyer changing too, because she's finally getting the I don't want to say apology, but there's a lot of understanding being exchanged.
Oh, that's so much cooler.
Yeah,
that's way better.
Yeah,
cool. All right, thanks.
She's
for
like
fixing
she
that
kept
for
saying
me.
My friend. It's like when you're trying to introduce your let's say old world thinking family to your boyfriend. And you keep saying he's my friend, and they're like,
yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what's happening here.
Interesting. I like it. So Una also tells the story of breaking her leg and not being able to get help, which we saw in the teaser. They eventually, on the colony, broke the city into two separate cities. The Ilyrians and the non-Ilyrians, or the augmented and the non-augmented. And her family chose to secretly live in the non-augmented city, passing as non-Ilyrians. This is... Oh, so I thought here that this was the subtext between them, because she talked about being abandoned.
Yeah, so this lady's cousin or brother, whomever, got arrested because they look like Ilyrians. They couldn't do what you did, which was go hide out in the...
Or was it her herself who got arrested?
I believe she said my friend's cousin
or was it
or brother.
Her who got arrested?
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the sense of abandonment was very clear. What I wasn't clear about was their relationship. Were they friends? Were they romantically involved? I don't know when they split cities.
Yeah, the feeling I got was that they were, I mean, like what I took from it, who knows, but is just that they were best friends. And
yeah.
Whilst she continued to be persecuted because she wore their family
had been outed, right?
Yeah. Una's family was able to escape and like hide out.
And pass.
Yeah,
obviously.
Code switch basically, and there's a lot of resentment there, and I think she's starting to realize, and so she started to resent the Federation, and that Una's take to it was still continuing to pass into, but here she is. What I loved about this scene was that Una's realizing that her friend who endured all these things is actually the person who's through hardship at Astra, because she's now saving her ass and helping to expose positively the hypocrisy. And in reverse, Una is seeing that her friend is, or she is seeing that Una actually isn't trying to pass. She is actually trying to hold a mirror up to Starship. Was trying to do so. They're both learning about each other. I just thought it was
and she's learning that Una didn't have it so easy.
Yes.
Like she just like assumed, oh, you know, easy peasy over there. Well, no, it was actually pretty bad on my end too. Good stuff.
Great stuff. And the Vulcan in this scene actually is a great. It's a great. Well, we're about to get there, but because they kind of play him, or at least frame him as a quote unquote a baddie. You know, like he's just like he's just out. He's got a vendetta or whatever. But a persuasive argument that's about to happen can also. That's where we get back to the ideals, right? What if, Keith, we lived in a place where a persuasive, honest-based argument could actually the political power at bay could say, "Oh, you know what? Maybe we were wrong. Maybe."
Yeah. We're in a post-truth world, so it doesn't matter.
I know.
So Nira asks Una, "Who turned you in?" And after some badgering, Una admits she turned herself in. And she turned herself in because she was so sick of living a lie. She wanted to safely live as who she is, and for Starfleet to accept her. When she was a child, she saw the wonder of the diversity of Starfleet and thought she might find a home there. And she turned herself in, not because she's angry at Starfleet, but because she believes in Starfleet. But then, the Vulcan dick takes over the prosecution. He asks Pike when Pike knew about her status. He's going to go after Pike and the whole chain of events, and now it's a conspiracy. She's forced to tell the truth that Pike's known for 4 months. Oh, shit. So in Act 4, Mike, do you have it queued up? I'm assuming a podcaster of your caliber would have it queued up.
Hold on. I'm cycling still. I was so enamored by your summary, Keith, that I did not...
cycle through 10,000 screenshots?
Yeah, it's funny because there's this... in Deep Space Nine, the setups are so... There are only a certain amount of setups per act, but here there's so many setups, it's hard to make assumptions. Okay, what do I have queued up?
Well, we're at a certain point in the trial, and in our previous podcast...
I don't have that shit anymore.
It's in the folder. I put it there for you.
Okay, hold on. Damn it.
As a professional myself.
I was so keen on getting the auto screenshots to work that I really haven't put any effort into anything else this week. So I also changed the Trivial Trivia plate thing that I did all that stuff.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, fair enough. But every week on The Practice, we reached this moment in the episode, and we always played this fantastic jingle that I wrote for the show, The Practice.
Keep cycling.
We're so good.
It's closing time. Time to put your case to bed. It's closing time. Otherwise, your client's dead. Closing time.
Wait till I do the edit and that all timed out without. Yeah, not gonna happen.
Wow, the nostalgia. It's closing time, folks. And the Vulcan dick says she's guilty. Which, by the law as written, she kind of is. But then, Nira pulls out the Starfleet Code of Conduct in actual book form. Yes, Mike?
This is my thing. I think I have... Well, this screenshot's a good one. So, okay, we're shooting 4K. 21:9. high def, HDR, baby. But we're still using the old, like, stick 'em, cover up your eyebrows so we can paint the other eyebrows on. I mean, I can see this man's full eyebrows.
It's like, I am not shaving my eyebrows
but
for
couldn't we, like, just put green tape on them and green screen them out? Like, can we do we have to have a solution. His eyebrows are right there.
That is 100% true.
We gotta come up with a better choice. Guys, figure it out.
You're able to create photorealistic wild aliens running about, popping out of chests. Yep.
They didn't even try. They're like, he's got one close-up.
And there's also something, they've changed the makeup on the Vulcans and Romulans that
You think they're too ashy?
They're not ashy enough, I think.
Oh, you want them whiter, like grayer.
Or something, because like they've always looked with like a different skin texture.
Have we seen a bald Vulcan before?
I think probably, but he looks way too human because of they've just allowed his natural skin tone to
and
be
his
whatever
eyebrows.
it is.
He's got eyebrows.
And his eyebrows.
Okay.
He like it's starting to look like cosplay Vulcans.
I mean, does that count as a full wormhole? To me, it does. It's like, if it breaks the immersion for me, that's a wormhole, baby.
Yeah. They got to, whatever they did in the makeup for the Vulcans and the Romulans in the 90s, they need to go back to doing, because it feels weird. It's missing the skin color that we're used to. Anyway, she pulls out the Starfleet Code of Conduct in actual book form. So in the Starfleet codes, there is an asylum provision, and Nira has already laid out all of the groundwork to prove that Una qualified for the asylum, including turning herself in. This is my big wormhole, right? First off, it's a bit of a Deus Ex Machina. We haven't set this up, right? They just like this magical thing in there, but certainly asylum, like, I totally get it. Yes, 1,000,000%, of course, Starfleet would have asylum laws, but asylum within Starfleet seems odd. Like, if you face this persecution, you get to be an officer in the Starfleet? It's like asylum seekers here, though they may be profoundly worthy of asylum, they don't get to join SEAL Team 6, right?
So, well, not only that, but like, I'm sorry to like maybe split a hair here, but asylum sort of does. They have to go on a technicality here, in that because she asked Pike not to say anything, basically that's her asking for asylum. It's not really. She didn't say the words.
No, it was her turning herself into Starfleet. Was her like outing herself? It wasn't. It wasn't when she went to Pike.
But don't you have to say, I'm being persecuted? I want asylum? Like, don't you have to like have actually been seeking asylum? Like, you can't just like retroactively say like, hey, Keith, he didn't know it. He backdoored himself into asylum. I think you have to actually, there's some sort of intent necessary.
Specifically declare, which I think the argument is that this trial is her doing
Correct.
that.
I get it. I get the point. But I'm just saying, yeah. And then so great. So we're not going to put you in prison for 20 years, but we're just going to let you go back and command a starship?
Well, yeah, but that's, it's written like, if you meet these qualifications, you are put into Starfleet, as opposed to like, you take you to a Federation planet where people aren't shitty. I'm so confused by this. Anyway, she tells the court.
No, hold on. I've tried to fix this. I've tried to square this circle.
Please fix this for me.
I don't know that I can, but here's where I started, and maybe you can get me the rest of the way. So from the beginning, they clearly didn't want this like on TV and stuff. They're trying to keep this quiet because they're trying to save their own ass, right?
Right.
So under that premise, if we can find a way, maybe she's doing everyone a favor here. She's basically like, oh, if we accept this and we just let her go back to where she was, we can get back to the no harm, no foul. Nothing happened here. Nothing to see. Bye. Now, it does set huge precedent for Right? Like, doesn't this set a huge precedent for anybody who's like any Illyrians who are like, hey, yeah, I was looking for asylum too.
Or just anybody being persecuted anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, just like walks onto the bridge and starts pressing
but
buttons.
But also, it's not a trial, right? It's more like a court-martial tribunal type scenario. So I don't know what kind of precedent it actually holds or how under seal it is. We don't really know.
Well, yeah, I think precedent holds. I don't know if it is public. I don't know.
But that's not my big wormhole, actually. But we'll get to it. I'm saving
Interesting.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, Nereus tells the court to affirm and absolve them both.
Because they all have shit-eating grins. They all are pleased as punch to be like, yeehaw, she innocent.
Well, I mean, by the code of conduct, yeah.
It is a great...
I agree with that. I just they didn't write that code particularly well.
I'm thinking she was sitting on this all the way back.
Well, that's my other
when
wormhole.
Una came into her room.
There.
Yeah,
we'll get there. So Pike's girlfriend seems very happy that she's about to lose. Though it's interesting that she's going to get off on a technicality.
So's the Vulcan. He's shit-eating grin the whole time. Yeah, he's like, yeah, she did it. She really tried.
I don't think that's a grin.
For a Vulcan?
I don't interpret that as a grin.
Oh, I saw him grinning. I saw everybody. I saw all the judges.
I saw incredulity.
Them. Oh, see, I disagree. I think they directed this scene. They're like, everybody, I think you guys are all realizing it. We're all on the same page. Happy. Let's do some smiling.
But why don't they all stand up and slow clap? I mean,
the music sort of swells to that.
Music was bad in this episode. Not the composition, the use of it. Anyway, so she's gonna get off on a technicality and not actually face the spirit of the law, which is weird. But it would have been a little too easy had they overturned the actual law, and also would have been canonically problematic. Mm-hmm. So I get it.
Well, they do a full punt. She even says as much in her weirdly heroic speech here, like in passing the buck entirely.
We are going to pass the buck. We are punting. We are passing this on to somebody else.
Yeah, that's 100% the scene.
We are cowardly moving forward.
They auditioned Lilith White for this role. She didn't want it, and so I am here.
Who's Lilith White?
Who am I thinking of? Angela.
You mean Angela Lansbury or Lilius White?
No. Angela from Tony. From Who's the Boss?
From Tony.
What's her name?
You gave. Look it up. I know who you're talking about now.
Who's the boss? Judith Light.
Judith Light. But you said it with such confidence.
Yeah, like she did. Oh boy, what a bit. That bit just disintegrated. Okay.
Oh, wouldn't be the first, won't be the last. It works, of course, and everybody is there waiting for Una as she beams back aboard. Then we find out that Nera figured out Una's plan and was able to pull all of that off, which is another giant wormhole. Why would she just not tell her in the first scene?
I don't know. It's a wormhole one way or the other, but I disagree. I don't think it was Una's plan at all. I think it was as Deus Machina to Una as it was to her friend. To everyone else.
You think?
Yeah. That was my wormhole, is that, like, what was Una's plan in all of this? She turned herself in because she felt she didn't want to hide anymore. Get it. But, like, we saw the future in which she goes to prison, right? We saw that future because she didn't have this plan. She had no out. I don't actually see how Spock, I actually don't see how, like, but we saw the future in which she...
boy, that's another wormhole, right?
Like, what was the change? How did Spock's existence not being dead?
Hold on, let's go to wormholes because we have a lot of thoughts.
Okay, so we're counting the episode done now. Okay, they're friends. Everybody's okay. We're friends now, and I'm beaming away, and all.
She beams out. Okay. She's all good.
All right, here we go.
I thought they were romantically linked.
Punch it.
It could be.
Punch it.
Punch it.
Punch it. Punch it. We can beat him.
Punch it. Punch it.
Let's punch it.
Punch it. Let's get the
Disco collars were horrible.
Punch it!
Punch it, Huxley.
Punch it! Punch it, Bishop!
Hammer!
Hammer!
Just punch it, man. Just punch it.
Punch it! Punch it! Punch it!
heading.
Yo, Adrian! It's the Punchies!
The Punchies is the best part of that. All right, so let's continue our wormholes discussion here.
Yeah, like, I don't think Una had any. That's my biggest. What was her plan? Like, she's clearly being. She just didn't want to hide anymore, which I get, which makes sense. And so she was like, I'll turn myself in and let the chips fall where they may. Cool. But I don't think she was seeking asylum. I don't think she had. I really think that was. We were supposed to interpret what the asylum thing as the skill of that lawyer figuring that out for her.
I actually took it the other way. I did take it as Una's plan the whole time, because she did have to sort of take steps to meet that requirement, including turning herself in, right? Because I think her turning herself in is why I believe that she planned it, because otherwise why would she do it?
Yeah, but then she would have known the whole time how the show trial would have come. She would have known that they were going to go to get her friend. Like, I'd love to know what y'all think. We're going to need to not choose sides, but like, how did you interpret it? Because it's actually going to probably be here. All right, so that's my big wormhole. Also, I thought, and maybe this is too tricky to try to figure out, because ripple effect, butterfly effect is like the smallest things. But we saw the future,
right?
In which
100%, yeah,
she goes to prison for 20 years. And the thing we changed was that we saved Spock's life by I forget what Pike had to do.
Well, Pike allows the accident to happen, but that's 10 years in the future.
Right. So like
why would
changed?
this have played out differently?
Right. Well, I guess Pike, you would assume that alternate Pike would probably have gone to this lady. He would have made the same decisions.
Right. Like what about his experience with the Romulans changed how he handled this situation, which caused her to be in prison for 20 years?
Right.
I don't know.
Okay. So that's another wormhole. And that was the other one we mentioned earlier.
It was a big one. Hold on.
Did you write it down?
It's in my thing somewhere. This is really good TV.
Well, we mentioned it earlier.
Well, there's the La'an thing about them checking her DNA, with her also being genetically modified and nobody knowing, but I don't think that's the one you're talking about.
No, there's something else. All right, well, we mentioned it, so it's
there's a lot of wormholes in this episode.
Oh, I got another one. Here's and this is more, I'm sure we could like legalese it away, but it seems highly improbable, right, that they would choose Pike's girlfriend to be the counsel on this, because she is rife with conflict of interest. Rife. In fact, to the point where even if you were going to say, well, we're trying to put the screws to Pike by using her, but they have every reason to believe that she would be sympathetic to Pike and sympathetic to his crew, and so they'd be like, well, we don't want to use her because we want to nail Una.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, the conflicts of interest there would be very strong.
I get that from a narrative standpoint, it creates tension between her and Pike, and it's interesting to play, but it makes no sense to me that they would use her. They're better off using Robert April or somebody with some gravitas or whatnot.
Yeah.
Or just the Vulcan who's sitting next to her, who seems to have an axe to grind anyway.
Right. 100%. Like,
it seems like false drama. False, what do you call it? False antagonist.
Well, and I think that's the whole episode is filled with false stakes, false mysteries, false drama.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the whole Deus Ex Machina mystery, like, all right, so easily, I think she had this plan the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Before she even implemented the plan, she should have reached out to that lawyer.
See, I disagree. I still disagree.
Said, like, we've got this plan, we've got this whole thing. Let's figure out this together.
I mean, like,
but like the show sets it up like this genuinely was her plan. Neera says to the court, "This was Una's plan."
She's saving her ass, Keith. She's saving her ass. That's giving way too much agency to Una there. It's definitely the lawyer who's pulling the shit. The only thing we're missing, and maybe it was there and they cut it, is that scene in every effing legal drama of what's the character's name? I keep forgetting her name. The lawyer, the friend lawyer.
Nira.
Nira in her study, going through the books, talking to the commuter, pulling an all-nighter, and then I found it, right? And like that moment. We don't get that scene, but you might as well have it, because that's how I'm interpreting it. It's like she found it. Oh, I found the loophole, and it's in.
Well, I think that's true. I think that happened. What bumps me is none of that was necessary if this was Una's plan.
I think she's finding the loop. I think that Una turned herself in saying, like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Let the chips fall where they may. And eventually she was like, wait, you turned yourself into Pike. So you actually...
So she pretended that it was Una's plan when it wasn't in court.
I think she's saying there's no intent is necessary. She did it. She asked for help. She checks the requirements regardless of knowing she did it or not. That's what I think.
Yeah, well, I think it holds up a little better that way, although it definitely strips Una of a lot of her agency.
Yeah, but it shows that she needed her friend, and that her friend did her a fucking solid here, because otherwise, you know what I mean? Like it shows I think it's supposed to show how, we did pick the right lawyer. Because the whole time I'm thinking, why would they pick this lady? If they're so afraid she has an axe to grind and they're not friends anymore, like, why did we pick her? And they're like, oh, she's a genius, even though she just found a thing. And did you notice where the bookmark was? I loved this. If you go back and look at the shot of the huge legal book, the little ribbon, the bookmark is at the very back, Keith. So she had to read that whole goddamn book to get to that.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, that's interesting. So then it just makes it, all right, so what the hell was Una's plan here to do this, right?
If you go back and watch better podcast, if you go back and watch the last scene of season 1 where she gets arrested, she's very resigned. She definitely, you can be like, okay, she turned herself in. And I don't think she had some plan. She's like, eventually I'm going to say asylum, because she would have just done it right then and there. I'm seeking asylum.
Right. Well, but she did turn herself in.
Yeah.
But then she had absolutely no plan for how to do that, or like what the plan.
So in my world, I remembered it now. In my world, under my reading of the plot here, and that's all we're going on is my interpretation. We'd love to know yours. The wormhole then becomes, why not take the deal?
Right.
If you don't have a plan, why would you rather rot in prison for 20 years? Maybe to be like, as a martyr, to Mandela it and be like, this is hypocrisy. Here's but why not just take the deal?
Well, but if your plan was to challenge the law, right, which would be the great, bold, like, brave thing to do, I'd want to have a plan for how I'm going to do that before I turn myself in.
Yeah, like, what were the events of the finale that made her think now's the time I have to do this? Or I guess we don't know when she did the turn in.
And okay, so you get arrested, then what? She's got to have a plan for then what?
Yeah, because her initial lawyer was like, well, it's a good deal, take the deal.
Yeah, I mean, like, her plan was like Deus ex friendemica.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Let's talk about our best moment, shall we?
That was a great... Hey, Keith, we've had some weak wormhole segments lately. That was a good one. I think my best moment for me, because they did a great switch, because I truly was wondering, I mentioned this earlier, whether Nira was in it for herself, in it to put the screws to Una or whatnot, and that would have been the easy road to go down. I think they handled it better. And that scene where she's with La'an and kind of... It's a very personal, specific to the plot conversation, but also there's a lot of allegories. And Keith mentioned a bunch of really great ones. I won't belabor the point, but I think that it was beautiful, and the performances were excellent. And I just think that scene was the best of what Trek can do and sci-fi can do. Yeah. And it was less hokey than the resolution in the courtroom, which was a little on the nose.
Yeah.
I know I know the music, but that's not. Yeah. That's neither here.
I think you're right. The performances of it are great, and certainly it's interesting and exciting to know that La'an is also genetically modified. Although, obviously I assumed, but I'm certainly curious how they're going to spin that out. Like, how is that going to play out?
She might not know for sure. Like we said, there's ways out of it.
I mean, I feel like she would have checked.
I never 23'd in Mead. I don't know what's my situation.
Nice, I suppose, but you're not related to, like...
Don't say anything.
Super villain.
Okay. I was just like, let's not.
It's like,
let's not make it specific.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think that's my best moment as well.
Okay.
Let's
do what we do.
Let's hand out some stem bolts.
Oh, I used to have a button for that.
Yeah, what happened to your button?
Okay. I guess I gotta do it this
way. Click the thing.
Oh no. Oh no, how does this work now? Come on, stem bolts.
You gotta click on the scene.
I know, that's the one I didn't. Oh, I didn't do this one. Oh, that sucks. Oh, we were so close to having like the right episode. Okay, well, no, we're doing it.
You get some stem bolts.
Very close to closing time.
Yeah, they are self-sealing. Here are some stem bolts.
Oh yeah, same key maybe.
I think it probably is, yeah. I always start in like G.
That's my key, Keith. You know, for when you're writing my solo, I'm generally in G. So there you go.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, good to know.
It's easy on guitar too. It's always a good one to play. All right, Mike, stem bolts.
I really like what it wants to say, and I like a lot of what it says, for sure, 100%. This show is weird to me because it's so brave in some ways, and in some ways it feels a little insecure, and it has to hammer certain things a little harder. Like the chip on the shoulder between the two friends, like I mentioned, bugged me a little bit. And they had actresses who could pull it off, the subtlety of it. We didn't need it so hard. Just like the music, that scene said everything. We didn't need to just like over push the point. We get it, we got it.
Yeah, over scoring the emotional scenes is a sign of insecurity.
I think that having the scene at the end, the tribunal, them punting actually is really an amazing way to they use the whole scene, that whole tribunal to hold a mirror up to our friggin' society, right?
Yeah.
And then they end up with a great point of like, look at this, after all that and after learning and turning them, they still just pass the effing buck because isn't that what we do?
Yeah.
But they play it heroically instead of having it be like, let's show the point. Let's prove the point.
To be the wet fart that it is. Yeah.
Because guess what? Deep Space Nine does that a lot. They're like, there are no easy answers, folks. Yeah. Right? Instead of like giving them an out here, which it felt to me like they're giving them an easy out. And so that neuters it a little bit for me. I don't love that we use Spock twice in this episode and both are for comedic bits. Like, I get it. This is a different Spock, a more human Spock. Like, I get what we're going for, but like, we don't always have to use him as... I liked the first one. Like you said, the second one just seemed out of place. I think we saw... Also weird that in episode 1 of this season, Ansel was out, right? No Pike. Here, Pike's back, and it's his whole thing where, like, it starts with him going to find the lawyer, whatever, but then right after he gets lawyer, they pull Pike out of the episode. And they even flirt with, like, here's the drama of Pike knew all along, and that we get out, we don't really, that's like, we don't really use that as, we go past it very quickly. So once again, it doesn't feel like his presence is, I will credit him for, in just the 2 scenes he's with Una, and the hug at the end, we don't really get to know much about their relationship from the past and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't really know what formed their relationship, but he plays it, right? That's an example of 2 actors being able to fill in some subtext, and I buy it. I mean, it works for me. What was weird to me, Keith, I'm on the fence with Rebecca Romaine Stamos from season 1. I'm still on the fence. I just don't.
She's not Stamos anymore. They haven't been married in 20 years.
I apologize. That's not cool. Rebecca Romaine, last name.
Who will remain.
Yeah. Is I don't know. I don't know what's not working for me, but it's not clicking. And thusly, what we've seen her be a badass in a couple scenes, but she hasn't really done anything to where I view her as the superhero, super leader that they've led up to. And at the last scene of this scene, with Pike standing right there, she's like, all right, everybody back to your battle stage with us. She's like the captain of the ship. They treat her like the captain of the ship.
Well, the first officer is the one who would be... Riker's the one who tells everybody to go back to work while Picard supervises.
All right, cool. Then I'll buy it. But it just felt like we're really pushing this. It's like they have to push how much of the leader she is and all of their testimony. It seemed like they used this episode to try to fill in, do a little bit of the shortcutting to make people like me feel more like she's more than she has been. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're not.
Get everybody up on the stand and testify to how great of a leader she is.
100%. Yeah, no, we have not seen Una do very much, and this episode works very hard to have other people say things about a character we haven't seen.
Yeah, it's like exposition insert. It's like a blink, blink, smoke and mirror. Now,
right.
So all of that said, I'm tempted to want to let it off the hook, Keith. I'm tempted to want to let it get off the hook here, but it just isn't. It isn't that strong. I think it's a lot more. I think it's a lot more smoke and mirrors than it is strong. I think it's a great idea and I get what they're going for, but it seems like another huge plot thing we did, huge arc we built that. Then now we had to. It feels like, just like the season finale, we're clearing off all of the plot lines we set up so that we can kind of just like, let's do new stuff now. Like we gotta get moving.
A little bit like Omega's daughter.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it sucks that you set up really cool narrative threads and then we don't pay them off in a way that feels like it did anything. We did this all in secret, right? This resolution. In my read, is all in secret. It's not like this got broadcast to the world and we see all the peoples watching and seeing what has taken place and realizing the hypocrisy of our ways. That is not what is happening.
And like, maybe they'll follow it up. Maybe this is step one.
Now, that all said, it's not bad. The performances, once again, are stellar. I think all of the respect is seen, but is played by the characters. I think the guest star here is excellent, but it's past that. It's a little middling for me. So what did I say last week?
Last week you came in with a 68.
Okay,
odd, but yes.
Maybe that was a little because last week was definitely better than this week. So I'm in a bit of a pickle, but you know what? I'm gonna try to right my wrong I'm gonna keep the same. I'm gonna say once again 68 stem bolts.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to harp on this for too long. We've been going for forever, but
No, it should be 67. I'm sorry. I has to lose one.
67. All right. I really like the episode I thought this was going to be. I really, really like the episode on whom's trappings we're using.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This has the trappings of Measure of a Man, of a great, deep exploration and challenging of a law and injustice and blah, 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 blah.
I don't love that either, though, Keith. I feel like this show is now going back, has gone to the well too many times. Enough with the nods. Let's write your own show now.
Well, I mean, sure. But it's not even so much that it's a nod to Measure of a Man. It's just like, let's do a courtroom drama challenging an injustice. Right? I really wanted it to be a great version of that. And I really wanted this to be challenging and thoughtful and provocative and, the stakes of what's happening here are high enough. Right? And it's just so neutered by a whole bunch of wormholes and straw man arguments and tangents and finding Deus Ex Machinas and cop out finishes that what because I knew that this was going to be the courtroom drama about Una, and I was like, hell yes, let's do this. I can't wait.
Hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah, hold their feet to the fire, challenge some stuff, make some good arguments. Let's have a great courtroom drama. And this just isn't it. It's a whole bunch of cop-outs and a whole bunch of wormhole. Like, it's not very well thought out. It's not very well executed. It has all of, like I said, all the trappings of a much, much better episode, but they all fall thin. Because they didn't really write a good episode. And I put this on the writers, right?
Yeah, 100%.
They just didn't write a good episode. The case has to be great, and the solution has to be great.
Especially in a 10-episode season. Like, when you have 26 episodes in network TV, and you get to write them all up front before you start producing them, so you should have a coherent thing ready to go.
Just make a better argument. Make a better whatever. And it just... It looks like an amazing episode. It's just not when you really look at it too carefully. And I'm disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
We say that too much with this show.
Yeah, it's true. So, like, is it bad? No. Is the purpose of this episode great? Yeah. The idea behind it is great. The episode they tried to write is great. They just didn't do it this time, I think. I think that there's a very good chance that there's going to be 1 million people coming for us in the comments defending this episode,
cool.
And I welcome that.
Yeah, please.
I'd be very curious to see whether or not any of these things bothered other people. Maybe it didn't. Maybe we're just being curmudgeonly. But I guess doing 8 hours or 8 seasons of a legal drama, we've spent a lot of time picking apart legal dramas.
We're also watching this. I'm watching this the day after I do a review on a Deep Space Nine episode, which is really coming into its own and taking, it's funny because so long ago, but taking risks. Now, granted, like you said, I think, this show has a lot more forward thinking to do, right? They have to look at what is everything that is to come and make sure that they don't
because they are tied.
Anything.
Their hands are tied by timeline constantly. But I don't think we never adjudicated the Ilyrian thing. There is one thing that will come up. They can't overturn the law. That's what that is one thing that we can't do here. But selling the disappointing punt with the trappings of like you said, with the trappings of like we've overturned this horrible thing. No, you didn't. You punted. Let it land like a punt. Yep. Why are we pretending that this is something heroic? Anyway, tell me that I'm wrong. I'm sure many, many people will. I didn't think it was terrible. I'm just disappointed that it's not what I hoped it would be. So for me, you get 72 self-sealing stem.
Let me tell you
bolts.
though, I continue to feel like I'm watching on HDR on my 21:9 monitor with headphones, and it is a spectacular feast for the AV senses every week. And it's also fun because it's interestingly much harder to avoid spoilers and other opinions on the episodes. I do try to stay completely unsullied week to week on social media. It's much easier to do that for Deep Space Nine, it turns out, than it is for this show because everyone is putting their hot takes out for these on a weekly basis. So,
yeah. All right. Well, speaking of hot takes, you can find all of our hot takes on many other things, and appropriately, The Practice with our Out of Practice podcast in your earballs on all of your podcasting services. You can hear us, excoriate David E. Kelly for his mistakes, but laud him for his successes. You can also watch us watch Deep Space Nine every Wednesday, K&M Geekly on the Mondays, Look at My Star Trek Toys on Sundays, and of course, this strange news show every Friday. You can see our social medias down below. If you're listening to the podcast-only feed, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other service. You can also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/KNM and get all sorts of more bonus nonsense and communicate with us. We have a nice little family there. Come join us. Mike, till then, this has been Strange New Show. Keith and Mike watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Next week, we'll be back with Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow,
which is the book I already read.
Okay. Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM.